Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm not going to show you how to make a cake today. If you could figure out this quick little sketch here, I'm going to show you how to make a crumb top apple pie. And it's delicious and it's easy and it doesn't use any thickening agent. So if you want to follow along, take a look at the full-length video coming up right now. So this is a real easy recipe and I'm just going to go through it real quick with you. It's something that my mom made and I grew up having and then learned how to make. Super easy. You're going to start with 5 to 7 apples. If they're smaller, you might want to add more depending on how heaped up you want your pie to be. But I like to use Macintosh apples. A lot of people like to use the green apples because they're more tart because you add a lot of sugar to them, but I prefer these. So I've cut up a whole bunch of extra apples that I had that were kind of going bad. I'm going to put them aside. I'm going to show you now how I make a pie crust. This is just my pie crust. I think it belongs actually to a very old Home and Gardens recipe. But you're going to have 1.5 cups of flour, half a cup of Crisco or shortening, and half a teaspoon of salt. Put it into your bowl and then start forking it all together. I use granny forks when I'm doing these pie crusts and things. And I don't know if they actually have a real name, but I call them granny forks. They're just, they got the three long tines and I don't know, the wooden handles, and that's just what I like to use. And when you're doing it, just fork it all around. I know some people use butter in their pie crusts. This is what I use. It works. It's easy. It really doesn't go wrong for me. So you're just going to keep forking, keep working that Crisco or vegetable shortening into your flour and salt until you have a whole bunch of nice little crumbs. And at first you're going to have like big pieces. You got to really press the Crisco in, smush it and smear it around and stir it up from the bottom. A lot of the flour will settle to the bottom, so you got to mix it and kind of turn it over. Once you get a bunch of little crumbs like that, though, you're going to take cold water, cold water, and add about 3 to 4 tablespoons of the cold water into your dough mix there. Start to turn it over. You're going to see it start to clump up right away. I added 3 so far. I think every time I've made this pie crust, I end up adding 4 tablespoons and not 3. But I always add 3 at first because, I don't know, I just feel like I get nervous of it or something. Anyway, once you have it all together and it's really starting to become a mess, go ahead and throw your hand in there as long as it's nice and washed and clean first and give it a little bit of a knead. It gets real sticky, as you can see, and you don't have to knead it a lot. It's not like bread dough where you got to really work it and work it, just so that it's all nice and compact and together and mixed together nicely. It's a dough and not lumps of Crisco or anything anywhere. Okay, now to roll it out, sprinkle a little bit of your flour. This is regular all-purpose flour, by the way, on your surface. Put your dough on there, a little sprinkle on top because it will stick to your rolling pin, as you'll see, and just start rolling it out. I don't know if there's a secret way to keep the edges from getting a little cracked up the way they are. I usually go back and you'll see me like that. I just kind of pat it and pinch it back together. Keep adding more sprinkles of flour as needed. I don't know that you can add really too much when you're at this point of it because you're just rolling it out. And you want to roll it out pretty thin to maybe an eighth of an inch of thickness, I would say maybe. Or, you got your pie plate there until it's big enough to cover the pie plate comfortably. So that piece broke off. Those pieces are getting a little cracked. I'm just kind of patting my edges, pushing them back together. It's, thicker than Play-Doh, but got that kind of consistency going with it. But once you're happy with the size of it, and it will cover your entire plate, you want to carefully transfer it into your pie dish. Now, what I'm going to do to move my dough over is I'm using a cake tool. It's used for lifting cake tiers. A lot of people will just roll it up onto their rolling pin and roll it across their pie plate that way. Whatever, as long as you can get it in there without it all falling apart on you, that is a successful transfer in my book. So yeah, when you press it in, press along the edges so it gets down into the corners. Of course, you're going to have some overlap at the top, and as you can see, I still have some cracks and everything. I'm not quite at my pie crust level where I make fancy pie crust edges and it's all pretty, but it is edible and it does taste good. So again, success, right? So all I'm doing is, again, just filling in the little cracks that I got. I have a knife there, so anything extra, I'm going to just trim it away and, yeah, throw away, feed it to the birds, whatever you want to do with it there. But any cracks, again, just seal them up. trim it all around until you have a nice clean pie crust in your plate. Okay, now you're going to add those apples that we cut up before. And the apples, when you cut them up small. I always say when you're eating fruit pies and desserts like that, you don't want to eat an apple, you want to eat an apple pie. So you don't want a giant wad of apple. Cut them up into nice, small, comfortable sized bites. All right, that is half a cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and I'm just going to stir them together in my measuring cup, and that's going to be my filling. Well, I guess flavoring for my filling. When I make this apple pie, I do not add any type of thickening agent to it. You certainly could if you want to. I don't know how much. You'd have to look that up on your own. I've heard, people use tapioca or whatever. So yeah, I don't use anything. I sprinkled most of it around. It's kind of a lot. It depends on how sweet you want it. Sprinkle it all over, give it a little shake, let it settle down. When it bakes, it'll bubble up nicely. Now here is the crumb topping. Okay, I'm going to have 3/4 of a cup of flour, a half a cup of sugar, and 1/3 of a cup of butter. Okay, so it's kind of weird amounts. So 3/4 a cup of flour, half a cup of sugar, a third of room temperature softened butter. Get that granny fork back out from wherever you put it and start tossing it around and making crumbs again. And same as before, you want to get the loose stuff, the real fine stuff on the bottom. Try not to let your crumbs get too big. This is a very moist kind of topping, so it will pack together if you're not careful. Once you're done mixing it together, then take it and sprinkle it all over until you have a nice thin layer pretty much all over your whole entire top of your pie. And this stuff is freaking delicious. I will just eat this right out of the bowl because you're just eating butter and sugar, so how could it be bad, right? So yes, when you have it all over, I do move it around because sometimes I miss little spots just like that. You might want to give it a little bit of a pat down like that, just to hold all the little crumbs in place. Stick it in your oven, your 400-degree oven, for about 40 minutes or until it's done. You can see, I don't know if you can see, you'll start to see little bubbles of juice come up on the sides, and that's how I tell when it's done. But yeah, that's it. That's my apple pie recipe. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because it really just helped me out as well. I have a lot of other videos out there, so take a look. And some of the videos I have are also other recipes as well, breads, cookies, that kind of thing. It's not all cake all the time. But again, take a look for yourself. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.